This is Dave Anthony from 10 Ton Mojo, and you're listening to Thunder Underground with Trent.
Welcome to episode 452 of the Thunder Underground podcast. Trent here as always. Got another great one for you as Dave Anthony of 10 Ton Mojo is here with me on this episode of the podcast to talk about 10 Ton Mojo's current single, all their great music throughout the recent years, the band's sound, all kinds of great stuff here with Dave coming up very shortly. But first, I need to let you know who sponsors this podcast. DEB Concerts is a promoter based out of the Tulsa area. Throughout the years, they brought tons of great acts to the Tulsa area. Bands like Megadeth, Ice Cube, Snoop Dogg, Lamb of God, Great White, Buckcherry, Last in Line, Lita Ford. The list is massive. The list is long. DEB Concerts also books the DEB Concert stage at Rocklahoma every year. They book that stage, and they handle the pre-party, which goes on every year on the Thursday. As long as you got that 3-day ticket, you can hit up the pre-party. This year, acts on the DEB concerts and pre-party stages will feature Plush, She Hates Me Not, 7 Foot Monkey, Jump, a Van Halen tribute, an Ozzy tribute called Ozulation, Molly Hatchet, Slaughter, and the almighty Ugly Kid Joe appearing at Rocklahoma for the first time. Can't wait for that one. DEB Concerts, hit him up, follow him on Facebook, hit up the website debconcerts.com to be kept up to date, and of course we keep you up to date right here on Thunder Underground as well. I've also got Sunset Tattoo, tattoo shop located in Midtown Tulsa. Their tattoos are done, get them proper. They're state licensed, they're Native American owned. They have 30 plus years of experience from their crew down there, and they have a female artist on staff full time. If you have some work you're looking to have done, hit them up to schedule a time to get in there to talk about it. They also accept walk-ins. You can check out photos of all their work on their socials, Sunset Tattoo Tulsa on both Instagram and Facebook. Give them a call. Tell them you heard about them on Thunder Underground. I've personally had work done by Jake more than once. I'm super happy with it. I know others in the Tulsa area that have got work done by Jake, and I also know of several touring artists in rock and metal bands throughout the years that have got tattoos from Jake as well. So hit up Sunset Tattoo. It's the most metal of the tattoo shops in the Tulsa area, in my opinion, but it is a very friendly environment, and I implore you to get over there. Hear some of Jake's stories while you're getting some great work done at Sunset Tattoo. All right, 10 Ton Mojo is a great band out of New York. Dave Anthony is the vocalist. These guys have some great music that you can check out right now. Easy Come, Easy Go is a current single. Rebel Heart, Gypsy Soul is their most recent EP. They've also got other singles out, like Rebel Heart, Gypsy Soul is out as a single. It wasn't included on the EP of the same name. We're going to be talking about that here coming up. There's also some other standalone singles out there. Carmelita is one of those. That's one of my favorite songs of this band's. They've got a self-titled full-length album out as well that fantastic. You can check out this band's work and hear that they fit the mold that a lot of people who like heavy rock would be into. If you're just straight up into southern rock, I think you could listen to this band and think, well, this is a little heavier than what I normally listen to, but I really dig this. If you just listen to hard rock, stonery groovy hard rock, or stonery groovy metal like, say, Corrosion and Conformity, you could listen to this band and think, well, this is, maybe a little more southern than I normally listen to, even though COC's southern. Not as heavy as what I love, but I really dig this. I just feel like they're one of those bands that kind of cross those lines of people that are kind of stuck in their genres. But, people that get stuck in their genres are closed-minded. That's just my opinion. I love all this stuff, and 10 Ton Mojo kind of encompasses areas that I love about rock. I feel like I mentioned to Dave in here about that I had a sound of Clutch and kind of like Skynyrd combined together. I also hear, as a whole, it's almost like you could combine a band like Skynyrd with a band like Clutch and a band like AC/DC, because you got to have that kind of raw rock and roll power, distortion, that heaviness that is just oozes the core of, heavy rock and roll like AC/DC always did. Van Halen, Aerosmith, those bands of the 70s. This band incorporates that very well. Of course, like I said, with that southern sensibility that gives it, this very modern classic rock vibe that doesn't sound dated, sounds fresh, and sounds great to my ears, just as I assume it will yours. Before we jump into this interview with Dave, lots of great recent episodes. Just recently had on Drew Cagle of Drew Cagle and the Reputation. Great lengthy interview with him. Previous to that, had on Mark Kendall of Great White for the third time. Great lengthy interview with him talking about the band's recent appearance on American Idol and new music coming from Great White. Robin McCauley of Michael Schenker and Black Swan was on here for the fifth time recently talking about Black Swan's brand new album that just came out a couple weeks ago. Philip Schaus, a guitarist for Accept, also formerly of Ace Frehley's band and Gene Simmons' solo band, was on here recently talking about his brand new solo album. And of course we talked about working with Ace and Gene and Accept as well in that one. John Corabi was on here very recently, one of my all-time favorite singers. He has a brand new solo album coming out next month. It's fantastic. We talk in detail about that. This was his second time on the podcast. Super excited to have him back. One of my all-time favorites. But yeah, check out these recent episodes. I've also got episodes upcoming with members of the band Dead Groove, which also features members of Power Flow and Kings of Thrash. I've also got a member of the band Defiant coming up, and Jason Schiff, formerly of Chicago. That's something I never thought I'd say. Something else I never thought I'd say, Jay DeMarcus of Rascal Flatts. And why is randomly a guy from Rascal Flatts appearing on this podcast that focuses on hard rock and metal? Well, Jason Schiff and Jay have a band that debuted a few years ago called Generation Radio. It's very AOR-centric arena rock. Flies into that adult contemporary Chicago, Rascal Flatts pop kind of vein, but it also melodic rock, Whitesnake, Cheap Trick, Foreigner kind of area as well. Journey. Dean Castronova was a member of this band when they debuted. He has since left the band. He's got some great music out there with Revolution Saints, and of course, continuing working with Journey. He's one of my favorite guests in the history of this podcast. That 2 or 3 years ago had him on, and that was a very, very fun episode. Got those new ones, or those recorded ones coming up, and also have a couple are scheduled that once they're recorded, I will let you know about. But in the meantime, you've got tons of stuff to look forward to, tons of previous stuff to listen to, but right now, you have something very specific to listen to, and that is this talk right now with Dave Anthony of 10 Ton Mojo. You guys got Easy Come, Easy Go as a single coming out here. You guys released this a couple years ago, so kind of talk about the idea to, re-release it and give it a second life.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great track, and we just kind of hooked up with a new team. Like Jody is actually part of that team through our manager Lisa, and Easy Come, Easy Go did really well when it came out first, and we figured, with another team behind it, could do even better. I mean, some of the grassroots stuff that we had off it was just phenomenal. I remember their team saying that they hadn't seen numbers like that for grassroots stuff in a while. So we figured give it another spin with a little push behind it and see how much more it can do.
Yeah, I like whenever bands do that, because this day and age it's kind of easy to just throw out a new song and keep throwing out a new song and hoping one sticks. But it's cool to see kind of sticking with something that you feel is worthwhile instead of just throwing something new out for the sake of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think we got to do some of that too, just because to appease people nowadays. I feel like you got to have. It's like singles are the new thing now. Like albums are kind of almost out, but we still like to stick to that old school kind of value. So we do kind of want to have more of the album push. And hey, this song is still kicking around and really awesome, and one you should check out. And Easy Come's a banger. That EP was a banger. And we followed it up with a song. Our last single was Rebel Heart Gypsy Soul, which was actually the name of that album. So it was kind of like an old school kind of thing there, almost like Doors Waiting for the Sun kind of deal, you know?
Okay, that was actually one of my questions, because you guys released that last year, and was that song written at the time of the EP or written after the fact?
It was written but not finished.
Okay.
So we actually recorded. We have a live album out right now that we also released. That is damn, I can't remember the name of it right now. But it's from when we played All Access Live. That's the
Yeah.
name, and it's when we played at Gramercy Theater. I'm sorry, I'm coming off a cold right now, so my memory is a little messed up. But
All good.
yeah, that actually had Rebel Heart recorded on it, but it had different lyrics. So we decided to pull it from that track. And it's kind of funny. The guy who recorded that actually said, I kind of liked some of those old lyrics. And I was like, I did too. But,
Yeah.
but this is the lyrics we settled on. So we wanted to make sure it was like the continuity thing. And now we have Rebel Heart Gypsy Soul as a single out on its own. But yes, it was kind of written. Let me say kind of written.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's a strong name, whether it be song title or album title.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I love the name of it. I think it was Scott that came up with the name of the album. I can't remember. It might have been a group decision, but it just a badass name like Rebel Heart, Gypsy Soul, just kind of encompassing all of life.
And it feels like it's kind of a good way to, loosely describe your music as well.
Yeah. Oh no, 100%. It's definitely we wanted something that did basically show all the aspects, all the attributes of our music, everything that really embodies 10 Ton Mojo, and I think it really hit the nail on the head with that. And
Yeah.
I appreciate you saying so.
Yeah. Well, a final comment about Easy Come, Easy Go. I really dug that song, and it has kind of like a Leonard Skinner meets Clutch vibe to me. Am I off base with that, or do you?
Oh, I'm loving you right now. That's great. Exactly. I mean, we're definitely hitting that Leonard Skinner. I mean, Clutch is definitely an influence of ours. It's a little AC/DC in there sometimes. I don't know about so much on the Easy Come, Easy Go, but also a little bit of ZZ Top. We like to be a little throwback, even as late as the Black Crowes and stuff like that. But yeah, definitely, new classic rock. We like to call ourselves.
Well, you mentioned Rebel Heart Gypsy Soul EP, and that was produced by Max Norman, which is a huge name in the world of, metal and rock. Like, how did this come about? Did one of you guys know him or have a connection, or was it presented to you by someone else? Or
I mean, yeah, let me just say we love Max. He's an absolute legend. I mean, everything he's done. I mean, not even just the stuff he's done with Ozzy, but I mean, just all across the board. But, yeah, he was a connection, I believe. Trying to remember. I think Scott knew him, and or maybe it was Scott and Christian because they both worked together. But regardless, that he came down to the studio one day after we knew him. We contacted him, and this is back when we were playing at Rivington Studios in Manhattan. And he comes down, and we're all hanging out, and he's loving the sound. He's like, "Yo, Dodge, let's make a record." You know what I mean? And he's one of the coolest guys to work with. He's no bullshit either. When he's telling you something, he does things right. He's right all about it. Just like this is what's got to happen. And when he comes in, magic happens. Honestly, I mean, I always love the input he has. We always keep an open ear to everything he's got because he's this guy's done it. This guy's got more platinum records on his wall than a lot of the artists, even more than the artists that he's represented,
yeah, yeah.
So I mean, he's done it, and it's just an honor to absolutely be in the room with him or just working with him. We're actually going to be working on our next album with him as well.
Oh, cool. I mean, like you mentioned, all those Ozzy albums in the '80s, and then he did several Megadeth albums, Armored Saint, Death Angel. All these bands are noticeably heavier than you guys are. So, like, what do you feel he brought to the 10 Ton Mojo sound to kind of set that EP off?
I mean, well, we're as far as the Southern rock side of us, I'd say we're like a much harder Southern rock band,
Yeah.
which is why sometimes I do like to compare us to ZZ Top a little bit because they kind of had that Texas upbringing, but they were definitely hard rocking. But he absolutely brings out a lot of stuff. I mean, personally, vocally, I love the guy. He keeps all my highs in there. which can be a little sometimes on the metal side, but
Yeah.
I love that stuff. Zeppelin, Ozzy. Those are some of my biggest influences growing up, and I appreciate everything as far as his influence coming in there and where he's coming from with it. And I'd say he's not even just, he's worked with bands like Lynch Mob as well. So I mean, he's got some of that, that flavor on that side, which is also one of the reasons we wanted to work with him. We feel like he does touch both sides of the coin. And I also play harmonica, and there's a little Ozzy harmonica in there on some songs well in the early ones. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there that I know he's already used to, and he just has a mastery for. I just feel he was a perfect fit for the band, and looking back, it was a no brainer now at this point. I mean, hindsight is 2020, and it was already 2020 at that point. I guess.
Right. Foresight and hindsight, right?
Yeah, it's.
When you guys are working with him, did you get any stories out of him, or did you kind of push that route, or did you guys get that close enough to like ask him questions about Ozzy or Megadeth or whoever?
I mean, we weren't pushing that envelope of stuff. I know there was some stuff that came out. I don't want to
Right.
put Max out there without him speaking for himself. But yeah, we got some info from him from some stuff, and he was some stuff was whoa, that's kind of crazy. Some stuff was like, oh yeah, that's really cool. But he was a wealth of knowledge, not just on the soundboard. And
Very cool. You mentioned the live album earlier. I like the fact that you guys released a live album because, you're a fairly young band as far as like releases coming out. And that's not something you see this day and age much. And that's like kind of something that bands used to do in the 70s, I feel like, put out a live album within an album or two. So kind of talk about that idea and where it came from to put your live music on display for the world.
well, we did this album release for the Rebel Heart Gypsy Soul album release, and we did that at Gramercy Theater, and we had that recorded. And oh man, I wish I wasn't like saying I remember the guy who did that as well. I should be dropping his name, but it was he came back and he was like, dude, this sounds really good. I recorded it. He goes, I think you guys should drop this as a live album. It was kind of like his idea. We wanted to do something like that, but it was his idea that like to use that show. And, we all listened back to it and we're like, wow, this is really phenomenal. And the only one we took from it, like I said earlier, that we pulled out was Rebel Heart Gypsy Soul. And it wasn't because it didn't sound good. It was because the lyrics were different than, the version now. And we didn't want like kind of competing thing out there and, whole different, rivalry going. We wanted some continuity with it. But I mean, again, it's the kind of sound we're trying to bring, that new classic rock. We're, bringing a sound of those bands prior to us, our predecessors that used to do live albums and stuff like that. And we wanted to share our own live album. We thought this one was really a kicker, a great show that we did in general. It's a little different than the way we usually play our sets. So it's a little something different for, the fans. And I thought it was, I think we all thought it was something that was a no-brainer. I mean, it was just, people, we're a live band, I mean, you got to come see us live. We got great studio produced stuff, but I mean, we also, when you hear us live, I mean, a lot of people say we're even better, which is, my favorite thing about it. I love playing music, I mean, recording is great, and it's, it's cool once the product's over. It's hell when you're in there, especially for the vocalist, me. Yeah. But it's, that live stuff, there's a magic to it, you know what I mean? And we want the fans everywhere. We haven't gotten there, especially across the world, the cats that are hitting us up all over. I know we got a lot of people in Australia and like Europe, and we want them to be able to experience that too.
When you were younger, were you into live albums from bands you loved?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I remember, I think the first live, I think I mentioned the Doors already earlier a little bit when I said like Waiting for the Sun kind of deal. I remember, the live Doors album I had, and I had a bunch from them because my brother and sister were big on them. So I had like Live from the Hollywood Bowl. I had stuff like 67 with Jefferson Airplane. And then, like stuff like Nebworth on its own without them going past the Doors now. But I mean, Live Zeppelin, it just How the West Was Won. I mean, just amazing stuff. I mean, like personally, I've never been into the videos so much. But when you're hearing the stuff and you're listening to it, and you're just like, wow, it's like there's stuff in there. There's magic with it. You feel like you wish you were in that audience.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I think I got a phone ringing in the background, but hopefully that gets picked up.
I mean, you've mentioned influences a few times, and one thing I thought was cool, like I was looking at your Spotify and saw the band Spotify playlists, and yours was is pretty dominant, on classic rock, like you've mentioned the Doors and Zeppelin, and I saw Creedence in there and that kind of thing. So is that where your most heavy vocal influences come from?
Actually, yeah, you definitely. It's funny you mentioned all three of the lead singers that I actually give the most credit
Oh,
to.
really?
That's crazy. Yeah, Jim would definitely be where I love my baritone low range. Um, Robert Plant is absolutely, I always have tried to emulate his high range and get there. I'm nowhere as good as Mr. Plant being that countertenor, but I mean, I get myself up there. And, and the frills and rolls that he does, I love all that. And, the gruff that I have on my voice is definitely, John Fogerty. I remember actually specifically traveling band I would listen to over and over and just try to get that awesome gruff, that Louisiana gruff that he has. And it's just, yeah, it's funny. You are the first person that has ever pointed all three of those out, and those are my three main influences as singers.
Wow, that's cool to hear. Yeah, I mean, John Fogerty's got tons of credit and praise throughout the years, but I think he's never got the praise he deserves for his voice leading into hard rock. Like you just described his voice, I feel like it was a predecessor for a lot of 80s bands that were heavier than him.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think his voice was it was way ahead of its time. It was, he did some great stuff solo wise, but I think he kind of like he lightened up a little bit on the solo stuff. I think because he was, now this guy and they're popping him up and bringing him in, but the stuff in Creedence, absolutely. I mean, that was early rock and roll. They had stuff that they recorded the guitar on that didn't even have any reverb on it. I believe Fortunate Son. Or maybe it's just reverb, but there was like nothing on. Like, I mean, it's like early stuff where there wasn't a lot of effects, and this is just, not Fortunate Son. I'm sorry, Bad Moon Rising. Bad Moon Rising. I think that is just straight up, just like, I think it's Gibson and just strumming. Like, there's no effects on it. It's just like straight up. So I mean, and going back to his voice, he absolutely that absolute gruff that he brought to the table and early on in rock and roll. I think not even just 80s, I mean 70s, like brought like the metal guys, early metal. I think a lot of those guys like, not so much the high range, but that like hard gruff, like, that absolutely, yeah.
Speaking of those three guys, was there one of them that was the first one that thought, I want to be a singer in a rock band? Or was it just kind of a combination of listening to all that stuff at the same time?
Believe it or not, I grew up singing chorus, like, and I didn't like that. I didn't want to be singing that stuff. They wanted me to do NISMA and all this, which is like, from New York, it's this like program where they put you in like upper level singing, but it's like all not rock stuff. Let's put it that way. I don't want to crap on it, but I used to listen to a lot of jam bands. When I was younger, like, I'd go to jam bands and they don't really, and nothing personal to them, but a lot of them don't have the best singers. They're just noodling, great guitar players, great musicians, but a lot of them, and not all of them, but a lot of them don't have really the best singers. And I used to think, wow, wonder what these bands would be like with a real good singer.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And that started kind of getting me into it. And then, I started joining different bands, and I started, earlier on than that, I really liked classic rock. That was really like what I was raised on. I got into a punk phase too, but I started playing with some classic rock bands, like some cover bands and bands that did like originals that were classic rock style. And I started being like, this is really what I want to do. This feels right.
Or whenever I first set up this interview, I was jotting down questions, and one of them was kind of about your sound, with it leaning slightly heavier. And then looking at those Spotify playlists, I see, everything you've talked about, but then you look at Scott's, and it's got Sabbath and AC/DC and all that stuff that basically answers that question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're across the board. We're across the board. And then, like, I mean, Christian even goes even further into that metal realm. And then, Kenny, he's bringing in, I think he came in after we had the individuals on there, so I don't think his is up there. Kenny's got a very, very eclectic range as well. So, I mean, it really, it really is an awesome group of guys to get together with and meld with. There's a lot of similarities, and then there's some differences on the edges that we all kind of bring together and make our own, which is you know. I just feel blessed, honestly, to be in this band. It was sometimes you just got to have that right fit.
When you guys first started, getting together and writing stuff, was it a conscious effort to kind of come to this sound, or was that just naturally what the four of you brought together?
There was some conscious effort of the idea. I mean, we always like to talk about familiar but different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because me particularly being from Long Island, I will say, this is like cover band territory,
Yeah.
like 100%. And you got a lot of guys and gals that will just poo-poo on these original bands because they don't, it's not exactly what like their favorite band sounded like. And I think we touch on a little bit of that. We'll take like a couple licks or something that sounds kind of like it, but not quite it. And it reminds people and it gets those cats into it. Aside from that, the actual sound that we have, I think, was kind of just a natural thing that happened. We came in there, started playing, everybody's influences kind of influenced the other person, so you start doing something and then all of a sudden, say, Scott or Christian has a lick and then Kenny starts laying his bass on it. And, all of a sudden it's like, okay, that's your take on that. Maybe I'll take it a little this way. And then I'll start singing over it. And it's like, oh, that was your idea on it? It's like, okay, let's, and now we're starting to really meld into a cohesive unit. And, I'll say even over the years, it's gelled even more. The more time you spend with guys together, the easier it is, the more it feels like, wow, yeah, this is what we're doing,
I mean, it's got to feel good to be able to as well take your sound into different avenues, because you could open for someone like Skinner and you could open for someone like Corrosion of Conformity, and it makes sense.
Yeah. No, 100%. That's both a value of the band and a privilege of the band. I mean, in both senses. I mean, for me, I feel privileged. It's also just great to be able to have kind of that eclectic nature or versatile style to go into lots of different things. I mean, we opened up for Quiet Riot in '94, I remember, which was kind of different, but it was really cool up at the Utica or Stanley Theater, I think it's called. We've done across the board. I'm not going to go into everything because I don't want to leave anybody out, but just stuff like Texas Hippie Coalition. It's like they're kind of like similar, so they hard, but like a little southern. You know what I mean? I'd say they're even like harder than us. You know what I mean? So it's like we did Jacko last year. That was a great show. So I mean, there's a lot of like versatility across the board that we'll do it. I remember we even opened up for a band Enough is Enough, which is kind of more of like an '80s kind of pop thing. Yeah. And so like we can definitely roll with the best of them. And like I said, the new classic rock tag is definitely something we hold to heart.
Yeah. When it's someone like that, say Enough's Enough, where it's a noticeable difference in the sound, is it like, have those gigs always been good for you guys as far as reaching people?
That was actually a great gig. That was one of the last really good gigs I think on Long Island that we did. They closed that venue, unfortunately. That's why I say that. It was. I mean, we've done other good gigs there, but that was Revolution, which was a really awesome venue. And after COVID, that one shut down, which was unfortunate. But yeah, that was a packed house. That was a great one. It was a rock star night. Actually, there was a bunch of crazy rock star feeling stuff that happened at that one. So that was a great show.
Switching gears slightly, just a week or two ago on social media, you guys posted about 2026, and one of the comments said changes in the band, like on what's coming. Is that something you can speak on? Is that like band members, or is that something more broad than that?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I can speak on that. We are going to release something more official later, but we got a new drummer.
Okay.
This guy Jeff, and I'm not going to give away his last name yet because we're going to do more of an full unveil. But we've been working with him. He's doing great with us. We're getting him up to speed for shows, and we're also going to be doing a recording soon. So that's some of the other big changes coming up. We also got the new management team like we have, like I was mentioning earlier with Lisa. And we're also some stuff that I can't quite mention yet, but we're working on this new album to help us get to some bigger stuff as well. And I don't want to give away the whole farm right now, but
Right.
I think I laid out enough there. The drummer on its own, I think that's the first time that's been mentioned in public. So I hope I'm all right saying that.
Okay.
I'll see if I get in trouble later.
Right. Hopefully not too much trouble if so.
I've been sick all week. I'll blame it on that.
Right. Speaking of new music, do you guys have a lot written, like enough for a full album or an EP, or like what's the?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We got a bunch. We're about ready to go into the studio. We're doing
Okay.
pre-production. Actually, we saw Max already. We got like a little TV screen in the studio where he can see us, he can hear us. Whole thing. We get like real time, real sound. And we're gonna start fully doing that pre-production. Like it was just kind of a test run last time when we saw him, just to make sure the equipment was working, the technology. But we should, I believe, as early as next week, we're going to be starting the pre because we've already done tempo mapping for a bunch of the songs. So we're going to be hopefully physically in the recording studio by March, and then again in April, and we'll be back. I guess that's the other thing I could mention is big stuff happening. Our first show is going to be. Actually, we haven't even released the flyer for this yet, but we're going to be in LA. So we're flying from LA to New York in May. And then we start a string of shows in June, and shows are kind of piling in. There's a bunch further down the road as well, but we don't have filled in yet. June's totally filled in. May is where we started up, but we got things going on up until October right now. At least as far as I know, there could be more than that, but that's as far as I know, that's what we got going on right now. So that's all new stuff. Some previous venues we played, but a lot of brand new ones and a lot more traveling. It looks like.
As far as like songs too, you're going to be putting in these new songs into these summer shows, even if the album's not out yet.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. We'll be playing them very soon. Actually, a couple of them we have been playing already.
Okay.
So they're already in the repertoire. But I'm trying to think if we, a little more than a couple. It depends what makes the album because there could be some cuts. Obviously, I don't want to say what's definitely on there yet because obviously we're gonna have Max come in there. And, some stuff might hit the chopping block, but but as of right now, I can think of at least 3 or 4 that are definitely ones that we've already been playing. And then there's a whole bunch of brand new ones that we have not, that we will start to play once. Like I said, we just got a new drummer, so we also got to get him up to speed with everything. But
Right.
he's a quick learner. We're gelling fast with him, and I would guarantee that yes, this summer there will be some of those other new ones on there as well.
When you guys are writing, is it like a collective, like in the room type situation, or do you guys bring in, or is it like one or two of you, or how do you guys handle that?
Well, the guitar players, and then that I include the bass guitar player on that, and I play a little, and I sometimes will bring in something, but it's very rare that I'll pull something in because I do a lot of acoustic stuff, and it just doesn't always transfer. But they'll come in with like a riff or something like that, or like maybe a verse and a chorus, but nothing fully written around it. Just sometimes no vocals on, or no lyrics on it. Sometimes parts of things, or hey, I like this little riff I got here. Let's see what can we do with it. And then it becomes a full collaborative effort. So I mean, I would say even when there is an idea that comes into the room and it's like something that's almost fully done, it changes shape when all the guys get involved in it because it's just the nature of the beast. You know what I mean? You start playing, it's like this is how you're feeling. It's going to go. Even when somebody plays it for you, you're like, oh, I see it. Your head starts moving. You start thinking already, and then everybody starts doing that, and now you start finding the parts where everything fits into place, and it becomes a new song all on its own. So I'd say overall, it's a fully collaborative effort, but there's always somebody that brings something to the table first.
For,
But
for you,
I shouldn't say always. There are songs where we just kind of all of a sudden just, holy crap, where'd that come from? It's like,
no. Yeah. Well, for you personally, like as far as lyrics go, assuming you write all the lyrics? Or,
I do not write them all. No,
oh, okay,
I mean I write a lot of them.
okay,
But Yeah, no, everybody kind of gets involved in that. I'd say Scott and myself so far have been the most involved on that, but both Kenny and Christian also do contribute quite a lot on that level. And it really depends from song to song. There are songs that are almost entirely mine, if not entirely mine. There are songs that like Scott are almost entirely Scott's, if not entirely his. But me and him are always kind of dropping some of our own stuff in there in between. And then, there's lines or sometimes full verses, coming from Kenny and Christian. And then, choruses we're all pretty weighing in on heavily because, that's kind of the most important catch hook of the song. So, I mean, we're all kind of weighing in what should this be. And I'd say it's definitely a collaborative effort. But a lot of it's from me, but I don't want to claim all of it because it's not all me.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask, like, when you are writing lyrics, do you wait till you hear like a guitar riff and then something comes to mind, or are you always jotting stuff down, like in a notebook type situation or something?
I mean, a little of both. I'll say that I definitely like to do the notebook type stuff, like when things are just being like we're going and just kind of I feel what I'm feeling from the song. You know what I mean? Like a kind of idea from that. Especially if it's something where I'm the one starting to write and there's no lyrics already on it. If somebody's presenting something with some lyrics already there, then I'm kind of going with that feel already. And now I'm kind of like, even when I'm doing that notebook stuff, sometimes you hit a block and I take it home and I'm thinking of a few things and I'm just like, oh, that'd be a good line. You know what I mean? Like, right there. So it's not all 100% one way, but my preference would be, like you were saying, that kind of notebook style, get that feel. What's the feel of this song right now? Just fresh without any external influences on it, and just like, what is this feeling like right now? And just start kind of writing on it. And then like, all right, what we're writing here, where is this theme? What's this theme here now?
Wait, as a singer, is it easy for you to take ownership of words when they're written by Scott or Christian or someone else? Is it because I think when you're writing your own words, it's like they're instantly yours, but now someone else has written them, so it's like it's not like you're singing a cover song because you guys are writing this together. But is there a difference in your mind at all?
I wouldn't say there is. I do take ownership because people are going to assume it's mine anyway. Almost kind of like you're like, do you write all the lyrics yourself? You know what I mean? So people are going to assume that anyway. They can see this interview and they're still going to assume that. They're like, he's BSing. But like, so I definitely take ownership, and I try to get the feel of that and the essence of it. I think I personally like to think one of my strongest suits is that I emotionally get invested into every song. And I feel it, like particularly live. I'm getting into it, and I'm feeling exactly what that is. Even if I can't empathize, I can sympathize, and I'm just like, this is where I'm at with this. If it's mine personally, sometimes there might be a little slight more because it's something I actually experienced, but I like I said, I like to kind of also sympathize and feel like what that experience would be like, and this is I'm going to be putting it out for that, or pushing it out for that.
Very cool, man. Well, I'm absolutely loving everything I've heard from you guys, and I appreciate you taking the time with me today.
No, absolutely. Thank you for having me. This was a great interview. Like I said, you're the first person that ever caught all my three influences singing. So I mean, that was pretty cool.
Glad to hear that.
Thank you, man.
There you go, Dave Anthony of 10 Ton Mojo. A huge thank you to Jody Best for her continued support throughout the years of this podcast. Longest running publicist probably that I've been working with, I believe. I think I said that last week as well. Love Jody Best and everything she does at Best Bet Promotions, but a massive thank you goes out to Dave Anthony for taking some time out there to hit me up on Zoom to let us talk about what 10 Ton Mojo has going on with their new music, upcoming music, the history of the band, all kinds of great stuff. I mean, you heard some subjects throughout that episode. They work with Max Norman, who's famous for his work with Ozzy and Megadeth. Members of Megadeth have been on this podcast in the past. In fact, members of Ozzy have as well. Brian Tichy played with Ozzy. But yeah, James Lomenzo is the current bass player in Megadeth. He's been on here before. Chris Broderick is a former guitarist. He's been on here. And Dave Ellefson, the most well-known member of Megadeth, probably, besides Dave Mustaine, from that classic era of Megadeth, but also the majority of the time outside of the most recent few years, and that few years about 20 years ago when James Lomenzo took over for him initially as well. But anyway, Dave Elfson's been on here twice. We mentioned Leonard Skinner multiple times. Ricky Medlock's been on here before, as has Damon Johnson, the man who has been filling in for Garen Rossington the last several years. The force behind Brother Kane, he's also been in Alice Cooper's band. He has also been a part of Thin Lizzy. He was a part of Black Star Riders for their first several albums. Tons of great stuff this man has been a part of throughout the years. He's been on here more than anybody in the history of this podcast, 6 times. But also, who else did we mention? I mentioned some other Max Norman produced stuff like Death Angel and Armored Saint. Ted Aguilar of Death Angel has been on here, as well as the mighty John Bush of Armored Saint and formerly of Anthrax. Was just on here at the end of 2025. One of my all-time favorite singers. Super stoked to get that one out there. Clutch, we mentioned Clutch. A couple different members of Clutch have been on here, as well as a couple different members of COC. But yeah, I appreciate it. If this is your first time listening, you got 451 episodes previous to this one. Recent episodes include Drew Cagle, Mark Kendall of Great White, back for the 3rd time, Robin McCauley of Black Swan, and Michael Schenker back for the 5th time. Philip Schaus of Accept and Ace Frehley's band on here for the first time recently. Had a Brad Arnold tribute recently, as well as the mighty John Corabi was back on once again here a few weeks ago. Also had on throughout the years members of Living Colour, Testament, Tesla, Guns N' Roses, Def Leppard, Twisted Sister, Grand Funk Railroad, Kiss, Queensryche, Typo Negative, Prong, Biohazard, Bon Jovi, Firehouse, Warrant, Great White, LA Guns, Breaking Benjamin, Hellstorm, Three Doors Down, Shinedown, Saliva, Seven Dust, Motley Crue. The list is massive, and the list is long. 451 episodes previous to this one. Like I mentioned, upcoming episodes will include Holly and Fred of the band Dead Groove. They will also include an upcoming episode with Joe Defiant of Defiant, an upcoming episode with 2 members of Generation Radio, and those 2 members are Jay DeMarcus of Rascal Flatts and Jason Scheff, famously as a 30-year vocalist of Chicago, who produced many AOR hits in the late 80s and early 90s. The man's a songwriting machine. Very cool to have on a member of Chicago on this podcast. That's something I never thought I'd say, but that's coming up very shortly. Also have a couple other episodes, interviews in the works, a couple other anniversary episodes in the works where I might be bringing back, co-host Jason once again to help me with those. He was on here about a month ago or a month and a half ago when we did a track-by-track rundown of the brand new Megadeth album. Came out beginning of in January. Self-titled album. Megadeth's first ever album to hit #1 on Billboard. It debuted at #1 on the Billboard charts. Their final studio album. It's a fantastic album. Check it out if you have not. But thethunderunderground.com, you can listen to everything there. Wherever you're listening now, whether it be Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, SoundCloud, wherever you're listening, hit subscribe, like, or follow so you don't miss those future episodes I just mentioned. Follow on all the socials, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Threads, Blue Sky, X. Daily content that comes out that's separate from these podcast episodes. 2 or 3 reels a day usually. So lots of great content for you to get on there. And anytime you see something, whether it be one of those reels or a podcast episode, any kind of post from Thunder Underground, if you just like it, share it, or comment on it. That's a super easy, free way to help support this podcast because it helps spread this stuff around, gets it out there in the algorithms for your friends and other people to start seeing it as well. But hey, if you want other people to see Thunder Underground as well, hit me up and get a t-shirt, shot glass, stickers, all that great stuff. I've got that as well. Leave me a comment what you think about 10 Ton Mojo, what you think about anything going on in the world of rock. All kinds of stuff going on recently. What do you think about Sebastian Bach joining, basically replacing Dee Snider and Twisted Sister? What do you think about Metallica at the Sphere in Las Vegas? Did you try to get tickets and not get them, and now they're thousands of dollars a piece? What else is going on? Rob Zombie's new album is out, and it's something I haven't talked about. I probably should. I'm not going to right now, other than to say that it's his best sounding album since Hellbilly Deluxe, in my opinion. Riggs is back, so he's got that original White Zombie and early beginning of Rob Zombie solo tone in that guitar back like Jay had and Riggs had in the early days of the solo. None of this John 5 changing the sound stuff going on. This is the real Rob Zombie is back. So if you're a fan of early Rob Zombie, I think if you check out this album, I'm not saying it lives up to the quality of a White Zombie album or Hellbilly Deluxe, but it's a good return to form. How about that? All right, enough rambling on that. Again, follow on the socials. Share us with your friends. A massive thank you to Sunset Tattoo, DEB Concerts, Best Bet Promotions, and once again to Dave Anthony of 10 Ton Mojo. And until next time.
Thunder Underground, y'all.